Yo! Yayo, dreaming. Don't give it up, Lupe. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Solo. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Nave. Don't give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up.
All right, guys, we are here with Jonah with his winning deck list of our local OP05 meta, and oh man, playing Kuro?
Oh yeah.
Oh man. All right, tell us about it. Why playing Kuro?
All right, so Kuro has been my main since set 3. He has been somebody that has been, or a leader that has really been slept on. I took him to regionals and I went 4 and 5 after a lot of local events. And now I've just steadily been winning more and more matches at every locals. And then today I ended up winning the whole thing, and I beat Sakazuki, a Rebecca, a Katakuri, and a I can't remember my first one, but yeah. So I beat some pretty meta decks right off rip. That felt good.
Nice.
Just going to talk about the deck list a little bit here.
Yes, please.
So Kuro's ability, you tap 3 Dawn, and you rest 2 of your East Blue type characters, and then you can restand him, right? So he can attack multiple times in a round.
Yep, which is terrifying.
Yep, and it also rests to 5. So if you have an opponent with a Sabo or higher level blockers, like a 5-drop Queen, that kind of thing, easily restable with Kuro's effect.
Yeah.
To benefit off that, the very first line of attack that I like to go with is low-cost 1-drops that are also East Blue. So I run 4 Alvidas for the 1 for 3. You can't ever beat that in case you need to turn her into an attacker.
Yep, yep.
And I run 2 Erics just in case they have any low-cost blockers. It's always good to just tap them. One of my favorite things to do on 10 Dawn turn, what I just did in the finals match actually, all I had on board was just my Kuro and 10 Dawn. And I attached 5 Dawn to Kuro, swung, and then I just dropped Eric and Alvida, used the Kuro effect, rested them both, and swung again for 10.
Holy crap.
So that combo is always really good late game. I'll always keep a couple 1-drops in my hand just in case I can try and get that off rip.
Yeah.
That's just one of the ways to restand Kuro. There's a lot of different ways, and we'll go over those in just a little bit. But now we're just going to talk about basic blocker. I just run the Pearl.
Those fancy ones.
Yeah,
though.
fancy store champs Pearl. Just a good 2 for 2 blocker. That's also a counter. And also, it is 2 Dawn, but I kind of use them in the same vein as I do these 1-drops, where maybe I'll pair those 2 together. I have 3 Dawn, but then I can restand my Kuro off of that, right? Next, one of the most essential parts of this deck, and it took me a long time to realize it. Sham and Bucci.
Hey,
right?
The boys.
You'd be surprised how many times your opponent has like a 2-cost blocker out, or just, you know, a searcher or something, maybe something they're going to swing with. It's always good. Sham will rest a 2-cost. Bucci, and then you can use Sham, the second part of his effect, to summon a Bucci. Bucci rests a 2-cost. Sorry. Sham rests a 2-cost. Bucci KOs a 2-cost. So it gets him off board and gets you 2 bodies on board for 3 Dawn.
Yeah, there you go.
I can also use that in the same vein as I do the 1-drop and the 2-drop, where for 3 Dawn now, all of a sudden I have 2 characters to restand my Kuro with.
Yep.
If it's 10 Dawn turn, I'll attach 7 Dawn to Kuro. I'll swing for 12, or sorry. If it's 10 Dawn turn, I'll attach 4 Dawn to Kuro, swing for 9, Sham Bucci, 3 Dawn down, and then use my 3 leftover Dawn for a restand. So just a lot of different ways to restand him.
Jesus.
I did that one a couple times today. After that, we're going to talk about the part of the deck that's a little bit more on the yellow side, right? And this is all of our essential triggers. The Searcher Nami. Can't beat a trigger, play this card that's also a searcher, right? And it's also top 5. One of the best searches you can have. Hachitan. Great card to get on board, and also a 2K. A lot of times I'll use the Nami if I have everything I already want in my hand, just to pull the Hachitan for the 2K, right? Typically won't play him out of hand, but on board he's damn good because he's 4 for 4. Attach a Dawn, all of a sudden you got somebody swinging into lead.
Scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, I only run 3 of these because I found 4 is a little too much. But Chew, trigger, play this card, KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters with the cost of 4 or less. A lot of times, like I'll play against red, and a Rush Zora will attack me. I'll take the life. All of a sudden, the Rush Zora that he just summoned is dead because of the Chew, and then I also have a character on board. Whew. So a pretty good one. The absolute best trigger in this deck, though, without a doubt, Kurobi.
Ooh, fancy boy.
Kurobi, trigger, play this card, rest any character if your leader is East Blue type, right? So they have a 10 drop out. You pull this out of trigger, you can tap them down. I've had, at regionals, I had somebody that was getting ready to swing with the 10 Dofi, and they actually had 2 10 Dofis. Swung with the first one, and my last life was a Kurobi. They'd already swung with their leader. flipped it over, rested his Dofi, came back to win that game just because of that trigger off. It is one of the most insane cards in the game.
Feels good, man.
All of these triggers are also amazing because that's just less Dawn that I have to play in order to have an East Blue to restand my Kuro with, right? It all comes back always to restanding the Kuro. Next, I only run 2 of these because I find I very seldomly even play one out of hand in a game. 2 Geens. The Geens, always good. They're rest 2 4 costs. So if you're playing against black, for example, they have 2 Borsalinos out or a Borsalino and a Becca. It's really good to shut them down so you can start digging with your Kuro, right?
Yeah.
He also becomes a really viable attacker at 4 for 5.
Yeah, I mean,
only 2 of them though.
good stat line though, and it has combo power, so.
Absolutely. Now, I'm actually gonna, I'll move on to the real powerhouse of this deck. I don't really run too many big bodies, but I do run 4 Don Kriegs, right?
Whew.
The Don Krieg on play, trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters at the cost of 4 or less. That's a good effect, but what we're really here for is the double attack, right?
Absolutely.
Attach Don, 8K, double attack. That's great. Even better when paired with this card right here. This is Django, and Django can restand not only the Kuro, another way to restand Kuro, it can also restand Krieg. In my second game today, I was playing against the Katakuri. They had a fairly low hand, so I thought, why not attach 2 Dawn to this Don Krieg, swing, got 2 life off of him, dropped the Django. He didn't have enough to stop the second 9, and so I took 4 life in 1 turn.
Ooh.
And Katakuri is not usually a matchup I have the highest win percentage against, unless I do that. It is really game-changing to take 4 life in 1 turn, and it's also hard to block if you set it up right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yellow doesn't want you to take more than 1 life per turn.
Absolutely, yeah. And especially, I like to, if I'm playing against the Katakuri or even a yellow, I'll try to get a Don Krieg in hand and a Django in hand right off rip. My hand's a little dead at the start and I can't really do too much, but once I get that combo off, by the time it comes around for 10 Dawn turn, it's not really that big of an effect if they drop a 10 mom on me, right?
Right, exactly.
The next card, my favorite card, out of the bag. Some people call it the pussyfoot maneuver. The out of the bag. You may restand one of your East Blue type you may rest one of your East Blue type characters set up to one of your Kuro as active. That brings Kuro back into play again, except you only need 1. Another good combo I like to do 10 Dawn turn, 6 Dawn on Kuro, swing for 11, summon Eric, out of the bag, rest Eric, 11 into lead. And that combo can be used multiple times in a turn. If I have 2 bodies on board, I can attach 4 and do it twice, right? Swinging all of a sudden 3 times for 9.
Good lord.
A lot of people like to run the 6 for 8 Kuro because this also restands him. I've found with these newer metas though that he just gets bogged down a little too hard and the double and triple attacks become a little too hard to set up. So I like to just run 3 of these too, so that way they don't overcrowd my my hand, because having multiples of these isn't as good as you might think. The trigger is pretty good. KO up to one of your opponent's rested characters at the cost of 3 or less. A lot of times, Rush Sorno attacks me or Para Sparrow, something like that. All of a sudden I can get him off board.
Right.
Lastly, the real defense, the Punk Gibsons. Punk Gibsons, I always like to use early.
Yeah.
I usually use them before I'll use the Don Krieg, right? I like to see my opponent have 3, maybe 4 characters on board and they start swinging. I'll drop a Punk Gibson and then I know next turn Don Krieg's on play effect is going to get a lot more bang for the buck. It's going to clear the board, and then the next turn they have to worry about not only rebuilding their board, but also stopping the double attack.
Ooh, lordy.
Exactly.
No, this deck list is spicy.
It's definitely a fast play deck. If you're playing against the Becca, if you're playing against the Katakuri, you don't want to go into 7, 8, 9 turn because it's just not going to sustain that long.
Right.
But the sprint potential on this deck, once you figure out how to get as many rips off as possible, you're triple swinging with your Kuro for 9, you're using the Kurobis to rest their big bodies and also swinging into them. That's another big thing. I won't always necessarily use the double or triple swings into life. I like to go into their board and really deplete their board. Maybe they'll burn counters from their hand to save a character they like, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm going for your life, all in 1 turn, and then I get a little bit of everything: cards out of the hand, a life, or characters off board.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make the most out of every early turn. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, you played against Sakazuki, you played against Katakuri. We don't know what the last one was, but you won the winner Croc. That boy is beautiful. Wish he was better as a card, but he is pretty looking.
I beat Enel first round. That's what it was.
No. So one Enel, one Katakuri, and two Sakazukis?
Yep, so 2 yellows and 2 black and blues. And people say that's the meta now, but
well, this is the second deck that has, well, this is our first locals of the year, and the first winner is Kuro. The last winner of our last locals was Bella Betty. Both games came down to playing against the Sakazuki. So I'm on the fence that Sakazuki is not the best deck. It is an amazing deck, don't get me wrong, but there are decks like Kuro that can stand against it.
One piece of advice, don't fall into the meta. Not all the meta decks are all they're cracked up to be. Everybody has these deck lists that have to have every single card perfect in it. Get a little wild, get a little flexible, make some crazy decks like this. There's a lot of great archetypes out there that don't get love, that smash meta decks, this being one of them.
Absolutely. But oh man, thank you so much, Jonah.
Thank you.
And hopefully people will see this and think like, holy crap, I got to get on Kuro. And
I want to see those TCG prices rising after this. We'll do it again next week.
Oh yeah, we'll see if you're in the finals next week.
Yep.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
The story goes, we find out by the treasure in the grand line, there's no doubt. The pirate whose eye is on it, he'll sing, I'll be king of the pirates, I'm gonna be king.
His name is Luffy.
That's Monkey D. Luffy.
King of the